Welcome to the Derek Loudermilk Show. This is episode 374 with Debbie Solaris. Debbie Solaris is a guest on my podcast today. She's a galactic historian. Over the last 8 years, she has done hundreds of Akashic records readings for people and established an entire galactic, that's the Milky Way, history of the evolution of humanity throughout our cosmos. See, Debbie was working a normal life as a health inspector, and she sent out this massive prayer for help for humanity. And then she had a very dramatic ET contact experience where she got all kinds of downloads of information, was given psychic abilities, including her ability to access and read the Akashic records. So if you're not sure what all this means, listen and find out. What are the Akashic records? What is galactic historian? What is our human lineage in the cosmos? You'll find all of that here. Plus, Debbie does a Akashic records reading for me. So you'll hear exactly how she does her work and gets the information that she's accessing from the Akashic records. So without further ado, here is our galactic historian, Debbie Solaris. Debbie Solaris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Derek. It's great to be here.
Is Solaris your original birth last name?
No, it's not. There's actually a whole story behind why I chose that as a professional name. I used to work for public health, local public health department, here in Colorado Springs, and I worked for local government. So, you had to be kind of on the straight and narrow. And I didn't want people to know, people at my work to know that I'm doing all this woo stuff on the side. So I decided to create an alias for myself. And somebody picked the name Solaris for me because I'm a sun sign Leo, and the sun, is very prominent in my astrological chart. So it was just kind of comprised from that. Other than that, that was mainly the reason why I have a professional name, but I do have a real name too. So I think most of my clients and most people even know me from my real name. Those that connect with me on social media, because I don't really try to hide it that much anymore.
Yeah. How much overlap did you have when you were from doing your Akashic readings and your woo-woo stuff with the time when you were still working for the health department?
It was actually quite a bit of overlap. I think I started doing Akashic readings professionally in 2014, and I didn't retire from the health department until 2019. So it was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. It was a significant amount of time. And I juggled both. I mean, I did, my day job during the day, and then I did my readings and my Akashic work at nights and evenings. And it was a very busy 5 years, but
yeah,
I'm glad I did it because it gave me time to establish myself as a, practitioner. So I think it was all good.
And let's see. I want to ask about. I want to come back to sort of what spurred you into this, but
yeah,
there's an interesting story on your website about Piglet, your cat.
Piglet. Oh yeah,
Piglet the cat. Could you talk a little bit about why he was so special?
Yeah, that's a really great segue, actually. That actually started my whole spiritual journey. The work I did with Piglet, the therapy cat. She really was a therapy cat. Not just an emotional support animal, but she was a registered animal-assisted therapy animal. And we went through actual training. This was back in, I think, 2009, I think, when we started doing this work. We trained with the American Humane Association, which their headquarters is actually in Denver, which was pretty advantageous for me. Because I adopted Piglet, I think in 2008, and she was a hairless Sphinx, which made her kind of unusual, So not too many people have even seen a Sphinx, let alone have one as a pet, But I just happened to have been able to adopt her, and she was older, she was already 8 years old when I adopted her. Mm-hmm. And I just noticed that she had a really unusually outgoing personality for a cat. Like, she liked being around people. She didn't mind car rides. She was really good in the car. Really calm, really calm personality. And so I don't know, one day I was just watching a show on animal assisted therapy. I think it was on Animal Planet channel. And I thought, hey, that's something Piglet and I can do. I think she'd be well suited for that. So I did some research, and lo and behold, the American Humane Association in Denver offered trainings, so I immediately signed up. It took about a couple of months, I think, to get on their, schedule. But so they do like a training over, I think, 2 or 3 weekends. And I think the first part of it is kind of like, lecture, book style. But then, like, the last part of the training, you actually train with your animal. And she was really good around the dogs, because there was a lot of, potential therapy dogs in the class too. And so I knew at that point, she was a natural at it. And so when we took the certification test, you have to go through a whole testing process. She passed with flying colors, and she got the complex rating, which means that she could handle complex situations, so that was really awesome for a cat. And she was one of only 4 therapy cats that were registered in the state of Colorado, which was quite an honor. I thought it was pretty cool. So we immediately, this was, I think, my journey into learning how to be of service to others and connecting with a higher purpose, of being, working within the community, being connected with, improving, people's lives, just through this work. It's probably the most rewarding volunteer work anybody can ever do, because not only are you actively helping others, but you're doing it with your very best animal friend, so you can't ask for better than that. I mean, it's just an awesome experience. So we did this work for, I think, 6 years. And she was older, so she was already getting up there in age, because we started when she was 8, and I think we ended when she was 15 or 16. But I noticed that, and we started initially doing work with assisted living homes. And then we did some work with schools for disabled kids. We did work with some of the immunization centers, I think in Arapahoe County and Adams County in, the Denver area. And then we also did some adult daycare work for adults that are mentally challenged in Aurora, Colorado, which is southeast of Denver. So we did a lot of different projects, and eventually we went through a process. We got certified with the American Red Cross at Fort Carson, Colorado. And we worked with the Wounded Warrior Project, and also with the Fallen Heroes families, programs, at Fort Carson. In addition, I also was able to take her to the Army hospital there, and she was able to visit, patients in the hospital. So we did a tremendous amount of work in 6 years. And
so what would an example of sort of why she was special? Is there a particular story maybe that you could share that was like how she sort of knew exactly what to do with these people you were helping?
Well, at first I didn't completely understand why she was so different, because I was like, she's very unusual for a cat. Most cats are very skittish.
Right.
And she just seemed to, just love being around people. And some of that is the Sphinx personality, but not all of it was. It was beyond, what was normal. So my understanding, so I took, I consulted with an animal communicator, what they call an animal psychic, because I was
Sure.
just trying to figure out, why was my cat so weird, uh, but, and she told me that my cat was actually a higher dimensional being from the Pleiades that, decided to join with me on this earth journey to, I think, to teach me, to get me on my path, my spirituality path, but also to assist, people on planet Earth. And she did a tremendous amount of work. We impacted, I would say, hundreds and hundreds of people in the Denver and Colorado Springs communities during the 6 years that we were actively doing this work. So that was the story that I heard. And it was just something clicked in me. And I was like, and this was even before I was even on my own spiritual path. And something clicked and it felt true. It felt like, yeah, I think this is true. Even though wasn't completely sure what the Pleiades were, this was long before I woke up. But something about it sounded true. And so I just accepted it for what it was.
Is that common for higher dimensional beings to come in an animal form or incarnate in a non-human sort of type?
I don't. From what the animal communicator told me, it was not common. It's a very kind of rare occurrence. She said occasionally she runs across animals that, or beings that incarnate as animals in order to, I think they have a soul contract with, another being, which would be the human, in, this incarnation. But she said it was kind of a rare occurrence, that it was not very common. Yeah, but I do get quite a few, Akashic clients that, they tell me they have a special connection with their pets, and, they feel like, they have some sort of star, like that maybe their pets came from their star families, so I don't know, maybe it is more common than we think, but
Interesting.
yeah, but it is an interesting concept. And it's probably kind of a controversial one, because I know the law of one says that, animals are second dimensional beings, which I don't agree with, but who knows? But I think they're probably even more advanced than humans a lot of times. But because they come in with a love consciousness. They just love,
They don't have as much baggage.
Yeah, they don't have as much, yeah, totally, not as much karma, maybe.
So now you're, so it's interesting what you said, that was learning to be of service, and that was even before your own sort of spiritual journey.
Oh yeah, it was totally. I think it was kind of the catalyst for it, but I was totally unawakened, during that time. I didn't even know what starseed was, so when the animal communicator was talking about the Pleiades, I was kind of like, what, okay, so and I probably looked up the Pleiades, I was probably like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but I didn't put too much thought into it after that.
Yeah. And now you're a galactic historian, Akashic records reader. What is a galactic historian, or how do you describe to people what it is that you do?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually didn't give myself that title. Other people gave me that title because of the type of work that I did and the things I was interested in. But my understanding of a galactic historian is somebody that follows the history, or is, an expert at the history of galactic events, so. And, in my journey, after I went through my awakening, I started getting massive downloads of galactic events. Just in my head. All of a sudden I knew this information. I didn't know where it came from. I never read about it before, and I thought I was going crazy at first. I thought, there is no way this is real. But then I started doing research on it, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess this is real. I guess there is something to all this. So that's my understanding of a galactic historian. Is just somebody that maybe is, an expert at, or has some knowledge about galactic events, which I don't think it's a very common set, information that's out there. I don't think, I know Andrew Bartus calls himself a galactic historian, and he does an awesome job. I have a lot of respect for him. There might be some others, but it's not something that's real common out there, even in the spiritual community.
Yeah. And so you were getting these downloads and you were able to corroborate the evidence with stuff that other people had already published publicly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, just research I've done online, and, books, and, other resources that, I came across.
What's an example of a galactic event that just came to you?
I would say the most prominent one that came to me first was the destruction of Lyra during the Lyra Draconian Wars. That was pretty eventful. And it's an event that still has impact on humanity even today, including Earth humans, because we were all descended from those beings.
And when you say Lyra is a constellation. Was it a specific planet that got destroyed, or could you talk more about that event?
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. Lyra is a constellation that's located very close to galactic center. And actually, I have a star map here. It's this blue square that you guys see in the side here. That actually shows the location of Lyra and galactic center and the surrounding star systems, including Botis, which has Arcturus as the main star. But Lyra was it was called the home of human consciousness, because that's where the human races, and I say races because there was 2 human races that were formed, during, millions of years ago, so during the first inception of physicality. When we're talking about Lyra, we're talking about several star systems that included planets, so it wasn't just one planet, it was several planets. And there was also the major star in Lyra, which is called Vega. Okay, Vega is the biggest, or what they call Alpha Lyrae, which is the biggest star in Lyra. And they also had their own planets and their own, races of people, that lived in those planets. So it was, a fairly big catastrophic event, because it involved several stars, several planets. I mean, it wasn't just like one little planet. It was like several of them, and several of them did get completely annihilated.
Wow. Okay. Was it like in Star Wars, like a Death Star ray exploding a planet?
My understanding, from what I've seen in the records, is that I think the Draconians had very large armadas of starships and Death Star type, ships, that came and just started attacking the planets. So it was probably a lot like Star Wars, where, there was probably, it was very destructive. I mean, it wasn't stealthy at all. It was just like, they just flat out attacked. And it was just an ambush, there was no warning. It wasn't like, oh, let's go to war. It was just very, it was stealthy in the sense that, they kind of snuck up on, these systems, but it was a flat out war. Yeah, it was not just something that you might see in a sci-fi movie for sure.
Yeah, and so my understanding is that most ET races are very loving and very benevolent, and yet here we are talking about war, and currently governments around the world are sort of fear mongering. What if ETs come and attack us? How legitimate is that possibility for Earth?
For Earth, that's a great question. I think people need to keep in mind that there's benevolent ETs and there's also malevolent ETs, so not all ETs are good guys, you know. So it's like, you know, Earth humans. We got some good Earth people. We got some really evil Earth people, you know. So, you know, so they run the gamut too. I would say the majority of ETs that are involved with Earth are probably benevolent, you know, so the ones that have an interest in our planet. But yes, there could definitely be an invasion situation if, say, some malevolent star people decided they wanted to take over our planet. But I don't think that's very likely because there is a group, kind of an alliance called the Galactic Federation. Some people call them the Galactic Federation of Light. Some people just call them the Galactic Federation, of benevolent ETs that are actually watching over Earth. They are kind of protecting Earth from outside invasions. So I would say yes and no, but most likely I don't think that's going to happen. If there is an invasion, it's probably would be one that's constructed by our own government, trying to fool people into believing that we're being attacked by ETs. And I think there's a name like Operation Bluebeam or something like that, where, you know, there's been talk about, you know, oh, you know, our governments might, you know, just to keep up people under fear or make us believe that ETs are bad, you know, they might construct this invasion event. So there's also that possibility.
Yeah. What's your sense of what, you know, why is the GFL protecting us?
There's a big long story behind it, but I guess to give you guys the abridged version of the story, the Galactic Federation, I think comprised millions of years ago after the fall of Lyra, because there was groups of beings that did not want to see another Lyra situation occur again. So they decided to band together and, you know, I think in the hopes of keeping peace and unity within our galaxy. And there's many hundreds of thousands of ET races that are part of the Galactic Federation, aside from the usual ones that we hear about, like, you know, the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Arcturians, whatever, you know. But the reason why I think they're so interested in Earth is because Earth was always designed to be like a living library. It was a place where I think it was kind of like set aside to be an experiment. Like let's take, you know, DNA from all these different star systems, bring it to this one planet, and see how it evolves. See, you know, how, you know, and this includes the human race. You know, so I think, you know, as humans, you know, Earth humans, we're all comprised of probably DNA from many different star systems. You know, so they obviously had a vested interest in the development of Earth, but Earth, I think, was always supposed to be a fifth dimensional reality. You know, so it's always meant to be a fifth dimensional planet. But after the fall of Lemuria and Atlantis, it plunged into the third dimension, and it's been under the control of maybe some what they call the deep state or the Illuminati or the elites, or, you know, these negative factions that are kind of draconian, or you know, Orion based negative factions that have been kept a control over Earth. I would say the event that spurred on, I think, the Galactic Federation getting more involved was World War II, particularly the bombing of Hiroshima. Okay, because there was atomic weapons that were involved, and the Galactic Councils decided, you know, we can't have Earth blowing itself up. You know, can't happen. You know, it happened before in the past with, you know, planets. We're not going to have Earth blow itself up, so we need to start getting more involved. You know, so that's I would say kind of I would say the quickest way I could describe why you know, things happened the way they did and why they're involved.
And now they turn off nuclear warheads, and there's lots of reports, right, of them dismantling
totally.
and disabling.
Yeah, they're cleaning up some of the chemtrails, and they're involved, I think, with a lot of environmental cleanup, and as well as, you know, some of the the war weapons type stuff. And my understanding is they might even be reversing some of the negative effects of some of the vaccines that are being, spread out there, so, so that not so many people are, dying from these vaccines. Particularly with the COVID vaccine, I don't have a very high opinion of it. I'm unvaccinated. I refuse to get vaccinated. Because I do think there's a darker agenda associated with it, which I don't want to go off on that tangent, but because I can talk for hours about it. But it is, I do think there's some nefarious agendas out there that the Galactic Federation is actively trying to mitigate at this time.
Okay, great. And then sort of what do you see as the main advantage of a galactic historical knowledge? How can
that's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that. Because a lot of people, they'll say like, why do I need to know this stuff? This is stuff that happened, millions of years ago in other systems. How does it affect Earth? Well, the reason why it's so important is because it's the history of where we really came from. It's really who we are as Earth humans. So as Earth humans, our genetics didn't come from Earth. Okay, I think most of us that are fairly awakened or very awakened are realize that, but and I think a lot of our true history, even our Earth history and beyond Earth, has been hidden from us, to keep us feeling small, to keep us feeling like here on Earth that this is a kind of a finite situation or finite experience, and we're not going to reincarnate, that sort of thing. But as far as galactic history, I think the reason why it's so important is it gives us the history of who we truly are, who our ancestors were, our star ancestors. Why are we the way we are, because of events that may have happened in different star systems. How did this affect us, eventually affect us, those of us that are incarnating here on Earth right now, particularly those of us who may be star seeds. So a star seed is a person that has a soul that originated from another system, a star system, another planet, another I would say galaxy or universe. And I would say during this particular timeline that we're in right now, there's probably more star seeds on the planet than there ever has been in previous history here on Earth. So as star seeds, this is our story, so, we do want to know more about it. And I have to say, there's a lot of people that are totally interested right now. I mean, it amazes me how many people are waking up and they're like, I want to know more about this galactic history, so yeah, it's very exciting.
And, you have a fantastic sort of summary of galactic history on your website, and I've, read through all of it. It's fascinating. And again, what you said something earlier, like it just felt true. Like when I read it, it feels true and accurate to me. And the fact that you corroborated it with other people without sort of knowing that previously is, a good indication. I know you have a background as a scientist, and so perhaps come with some degree of skepticism or wanting some validation. How has your sort of previous background helped you in the work you do now?
Oh, that's a great question. You're asking really great questions. I love it. They're original questions. I like it, so I like when it makes me think, so, yeah. So let me think about how I'm going to answer that. So I think a lot of people think that, oh my gosh, Debbie must have been doing this for decades. And actually, I'm a very relative newcomer. I didn't awaken really truly awaken until 2012. So that was when I had my, ET contact experience. And it happened twice in 2012. It was very kind of impactful, and that's what caused me, I think, to become very awakened. But before that, I was, I'm a Navy veteran, so I was in the military for 6 years. I was what they call a hospital corpsman / preventive medicine tech. So I worked definitely in a scientific field. And then I worked in the environmental health field, after that for, I would say, almost 30 years, so I have a long, I think, background of being very much working in left brain type of work, and I consider myself a fairly analytical person. I have that kind of analytical brain. I like to break things down, and I don't know. Some people might say I'm an overthinker, but I don't know. I like looking at things from an analytical viewpoint. And so I was never very heavily developed in my intuition. I didn't consider myself a psychic person or an intuitive person until after my awakening. So after my ET contact experience, which was on board an Arcturian starship, which Arcturians are a race of beings that came from the system called Arcturus. I noticed that, I was starting to get a lot of intuitive hits, that my, extrasensory perception increased a lot. But I think how my scientific background helps me is that I kind of look at things from maybe a skeptical viewpoint, so I want to know, not just, oh yeah, this is all touchy feely, it feels good, it's all woo woo, but I also want to know, what the facts are, so why does this correlate with us, from, a very scientific viewpoint, in addition to the intuitive, which I think both are equally important, but it's nice to marry the two.
Yeah, and part of the reason I'm asking is because I have scientific background as well. I was a
Yeah, you told me
microbiologist.
that. Yeah.
And I was actually studying virology. I dropped out of a virology PhD program. And what I love discovering is underlying science, underlying research that can back up the things that my woo-woo friends are talking about, that where they don't have
Yeah.
data to support it. Often I can say, like, well, there is actually a lot of data and evidence here.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about star seeds, galactic history. Maybe this would be a good time to flow into, you're going to do a little bit of a reading.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do a little. So we were talking about doing a little mini Akashic reading for you. So
perfect.
Yeah, so that was, and I already got your information and your birth date. So when I do an Akashic reading, all I really need is the person's full name and their birth date. I don't even need to be facing them face to face, although I do prefer that because I like to read people's energies. But there's been times when I had to do readings on the phone, and I don't even see the person. I can still connect with their Akashic records. So the process that we're going to be doing as far as accessing your records will be that I know where you're located. So I'm going to do what's called the divine heart triangle. So I'm going to be connecting my heart chakra with yours. We connect the source, it keeps the vibration high. Then I'll do a little space clearing because we want to keep the high vibrations around us because we are accessing the higher realms. And then I'm going to do what's called the pathway prayer process. I'm going to use your full name and birth date. And this is my way of accessing the records. It's a method that Linda Howe created, which she's kind of the gold standard when it comes to Akashic readings. She did, I would say, very revolutionary work around Akashic, accessing Akashic records. And so I just follow her method because it works for me, and it gives me kind of a ritual, as far as accessing the records. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to grab my little notebook here, and we'll go ahead and get at it. Okay.
Cool.
Of Love and light can be in the space and all objects in the space for the highest good of Derek Ross Loudermilk and myself for this reading today. All other energies must leave now. I call in the highest level of the divine that knows that love is the power in the system of what we access. I'm sorry. uh, we and the truth from which we read, the higher level guides and angels of Derek Ross Loudermilk and myself to help us with this reading. Archangel Michael, hold this space for us, and so it is. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Derek Ross Loudermilk in the light of the Akashic records, to see Derek Ross Loudermilk through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones have for Derek Ross Loudermilk. Okay, the records are now open. All right. So Derek, I was already picking up on your energy even before the reading, but so I already know where you're from. But so you're a star seed. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. You were born in 1983. I would say the majority of star seeds started incarnating on planet Earth, I think, after World War II. And Dolores Cannon breaks it up into 3 waves of volunteers, or 3 generations of star seeds. I'm of the first wave volunteer group, so I'm kind of tail end of first wave. You're definitely second wave, which means that you're kind of what they call the true indigo children. So you're coming in with a little bit more of a rebellious energy, a little bit more kind of system buster oriented. Okay. And maybe that's why you worked in the scientific field for a while, because you had to understand the system before you changed it. Okay. I think a lot of us have gone through that, you know, star seeds, but I do pick up Arcturus as your star system of origin. Okay. So when I connected with you, I was like, oh my gosh, he's a star brother. I already knew it. I already knew it. It's like, oh, that's a star brother. So maybe there's a reason why you were attracted to, or wanted to have me on your show. But you had a lot of incarnations in Sirius. Okay. So I'll explain what Arcturus is about and why that's so significant. And then I'll explain some of your alternate incarnations. So as Arcturian beings, because we're so so high dimensional, so non-physical, in order for us to do our work, sometimes we'd have to incarnate in other systems in order to be of assistance to those systems. So looking at your star origins, Arcturus is a star in the constellation of Bootes, which is actually located not far from Draco and also from Lyra. And so if you were here and you were looking at my star map, you would see it right there, kind of towards the center of the star map there. But it's actually one of the biggest stars, I think they say, or one of the brightest stars. I think it's like the 4th brightest star in our night sky. So it's a big star system. It's huge. It's a huge star. The reason why it's so significant is because there was an alternate consciousness that was assigned to it. So you and I, we're part of the Arcturus soul family. We're kind of separate consciousness from the Lyra Vega soul group. The majority of star seeds come from the Lyra Vega soul group. We have exceptions, so there's the Andromeda group and there's, some other groups, but Arcturus, we were kind of set aside to be the spiritual guides and teachers and healers of the galaxy. But we're also very technical. Okay. So we're kind of one of those rare soul groups that I think we have abilities in many different areas. Our left brain and our right brain are very well meshed with each other. And we've received, I think, cross training in our star systems of origin in many different capacities. So we were trained in technology. We were trained as spiritual guides for souls that were passing through the Stargate. So Arcturus is also a Stargate. It processes souls after death and before incarnations. So this is why Arcturians have access to the Akashic records, and they're considered to be the keepers of the Akashic records. So as far as your particular story, I do think you're associated with the planet called Pitola. Okay, that's one of the planets in the Arcturus system. That's Pitolla, Pitola. And I would say you started off very similarly to me, where you were cross-trained. But I'm seeing in your records that you did a lot of work on, particularly with biological sciences, is what I'm seeing, which was kind of interesting. It was almost like you were preparing for something, okay? Like you were preparing for your ultimate missions in assisting other star people. But you also did some technological work. So I think you were helping to create shielding systems with the Arcturus Stargate. A lot of people don't know this, but Arcturus was also attacked by Draco because they wanted to take over the Stargate.
Okay.
And unfortunately for Draco, we were prepared. Okay, so we had our technology game on. We were prepared for them, so we were able to fight them off very successfully. But it was a rough time while it was happening, so it wasn't, an easy, it wasn't like, oh yeah, it was one battle, boom, it was over, kind of took a while, but we managed to survive that and maintain the Stargate. But so there were shielding systems that were created around Stargates, and you were involved with that. The other thing I'm seeing is that you were cross-trained with processing people through the Stargate, this Stargate of souls. You also did some healing work in Pitola. So Pitola had a lot of these crystal healing temples that had, crystal pods where, we would place souls. So it was heal souls through frequency. So you did some technological work with that. So by the time you left Arcturus, you were very well trained. Okay. And pretty much what I'm seeing is that with most Arcturian star seeds, we have overlays of energy from other systems, because it doesn't do us any good to just be sitting in the ivory tower of Arcturus. Because how are we going to be of service otherwise, So we had to incarnate in these other systems. I see a very, I think, deep connection with you and Sirius, particularly Sirius A. Okay, so you have some. I would say Sirius, and I would see also. I see some lifetimes in Orion. Okay. A lot of us Arcturians did a lot of work in Orion. So it's not uncommon to see Arcturians that have also an Orion connection. To get to Sirius A, we're going to kind of fall back on that. When you, I think, incarnated in Sirius A, Sirius was just starting to get colonized. So it was one of those places that was colonized by Vega and Lyran refugees after the Lyran Wars. So the survivors ended up colonizing, the planets of Sirius A. And I think ultimately also Sirius B and Sirius C. But so you incarnated there as an Arcturian soul in order to help assist the Sirian people in establishing higher level technology. Okay. at first it was kind of very technical, kind of more engineering based, but then I think ultimately you got very interested in the Syrian mystery schools and you became enmeshed with the Syrian mystery schools. So you went through them and then you also taught at the Syrian mystery schools. It was kind of like some sort of chemical, biological, topics, I guess. I think you fall back on I think science because it's familiar for you. So whenever you have an incarnation, you fall back on science because you're good at it, but I don't get that it's your great love. I think you do it because it's it's a skill that's always needed, and you usually get paid well, so you usually get paid well to scientific work. You don't get paid well being a spiritualist, but I would say most Arcturian starseeds, we really are very creative also, so we're not all tech heads, many of us have skills in the arts and music, and we love it when we can integrate both, when we can integrate the spirituality with the science, when we can integrate the creativity with, the analytical thinking, so that's kind of the special part about being an Arcturian starseed, is that we're very multi-talented that way. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me like, yeah, I like to play the guitar on my time off, or I sing, or or I paint, or draw cartoons or something, so so many of us have those skills too. As far as your Orion incarnations, I think you were drawn to working with Orion because Orion was located very close to Sirius, so whenever you see the Orion belt stars in the night sky, Sirius is always kind of there, so here's the Orion belt stars, here's Sirius. And you can't miss Sirius because it is the brightest star in our night sky. It's comprised of 3 stars, so that's part of what makes it bright. And it also is located only 8 light years from Earth, so it's pretty close. And Sirius was also considered to be our spiritual sun for a while. It was very connected to Earth, so you see a lot of correlations between ancient civilizations and Sirius, or ancient civilizations and Orion, ancient civilizations and the Pleiades, for instance, because they all had, some involvement with the development of civilization on Earth. But I think Orion became of interest to you because the Orion people were struggling. And they were in constant wars and conflicts, and I think as a soul you wanted to be of assistance to them, so whatever you could do to help them, that's what you were about. And I'm seeing you were based out of Minnetonka, which is actually the same area I was based out of when I was in Orion. There's a relationship between Minnetonka, which is one of the belt stars in Orion, and Arcturus. So they're kind of like our sister star. Okay, so so there was a lot of Arcturians that when they were assisting Orion, they mainly stayed within the Minnetonka system. And Minnetonka was probably the highest vibrational star system in the Orion constellation. Orion is huge. It's a huge constellation. It's got many different stars. I mean, even in the sky, when you look at Orion, it's like, oh my God, it takes up like half the sky. You're like, oh my God, it's like, where's all the other, places, but yeah, you kind of, so I think, so Orion kind of had a situation that was very similar to Star Wars. You mentioned Star Wars before, but I would say the true Star Wars happened in Orion. I actually think Star Wars is actually the story of the Orion Wars, because Orion was under duality consciousness. They were fighting all the time. It was such a big star system. There was a lot of diversity of beings, and they had a lot of negative beings that lived in Orion. and as well as benevolent beings. And so it was a kind of a hodgepodge of different things going on, and they were always in conflict. And so they had like an empire situation, and they had the resistance fighters. So it's all very Star Wars like. But I think the work that you were doing there was you were trying to support these resistance fighters to some capacity. Not that you were actively fighting, I don't see that. I see more that you were assisting them with maybe some scientific or technological assistance that they needed, because Orion didn't have the resources that the other star systems had. They were always kind of lacking in resources because they were lower dimensional. It's kind of like here on Earth, where when you're lower dimensional, it takes a process, to create or manifest things. And that's pretty much what happened in Orion as well. And we deal with this even here on Earth, where it takes a process to go through to manifest things that we need. When we're in the higher dimensions, we just think of something and it manifests just like that. Can't wait till we get to those days. Oh my God. Like, let me manifest a Jaguar, okay, or Ferrari. Okay, there we go. Not that we would use our powers for that, but it might be fun. I don't know. So I think kind of to speed this up a little bit, I'm not going to go into your Earth lives. Although you do have an Atlantis connection. I do see, I don't know if you felt that about yourself, but I do see definitely a connection with Atlantis and probably Egypt. Okay, you probably had, I would say the majority of us star seeds have probably have a connection with either Lemuria, Atlantis, or Egypt. I see that a lot, when I do these readings. But going to your mission is the ultimate Arcturus mission, okay? So Arcturians, we're masters of combining spirituality with technology and science. And that's basically your mission, okay? So you're doing it with this podcast, you're doing it through the other work that you're doing, but you're trying to bring together these two very separate concepts, which are considered to be separate here on Earth, but are actually very well, in other systems, are very integrated. And so that's been ultimately, I would say, your mission here on Earth is to bring the science along with the spirituality. So then it becomes more well integrated, where people can accept it, because we kind of live in a society right now where a lot of people are just, if they don't have the facts, they don't believe it,
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, it's got to be concrete, it's got to be in front of my face, they don't want to use their faith in believing something. And it's not that we don't have faith as Arcturian starseeds, but we do want to bring in that science so it collaborates the spirituality. Okay, so I think that's your predominant mission. Does this resonate with you? Does any of this stuff resonate?
Yeah, it's already what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the Atlantean connection with where you were talking about on Arcturus with the crystal healing temples.
Yeah, crystal healing temples.
That was my sense of maybe what I was doing in Atlantis.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, you did that technology in Arcturus, and then you just brought it to Atlantis. So,
yeah, I've always loved gems and crystals here on Earth too. So,
yeah, I see a few of them on your shelves there. So
yeah, they're all over.
I have a few too, but you can't see them. But I have a whole bunch of them. So that's pretty much, I think, what I'll get into as far as, unless you have a question. I guess I'll open it up to questions, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, that was amazing. That's super cool.
We do a closing prayer just to shut down the records, and
Sure.
then we'll go on to the rest of the interview.
Okay, perfect.
So anyway, I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the Lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view, and I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are not closed. Amen. The records are not closed. Amen. The records are not closed. Amen. Your energy goes with you. My energy stays with me. Okay, so I don't know what you thought about all that, but it was fun looking at your records. Your story is kind of similar to mine, at least it was in the beginning, where we kind of went through similar training in Arcturus. So
cool.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And I was just noticing, how you're just yourself. You're not in really an altered state of consciousness, it seems, when you're reading the records.
No, I get downloads, but it's not like I'm in trance or anything like that, if that's what you mean. Yeah, it's like I'm having a conversation with you.
And much. Are you seeing visual images, or what are the downloads like for you?
Yeah, it's kind of a multi-layered experience. So so a lot of times I'll see like a movie being played out, just like I'm accessing your Akashic, movie from Netflix or something, so similar to that. So that's why we use your name and birth date. So it's kind of like that. But I'm also, I get your guides will speak to me. They'll tell me things, or the Akashic guides will tell me things, or sometimes I'll get music or smells or emotions that are associated. So it's kind of a multi-layered. So that's why doing Akashic readings can be very exhausting. It's why I can only do 2 a day. I used to do like 5 a day, and I would just get so exhausted. And now I don't put myself through that. I don't want to put my clients through that either. So yeah. I want to give them the best of me. So, so I just limit it to 2 a day, but it can be a very kind of overwhelming experience, when you're in the records, because, the information is so vast.
Gotcha. I know that some types of healing can rejuvenate the healer, but you're saying this is more of a depleting activity.
It could be both, actually. It is depleting in the sense that it takes a lot of energy to, download the records, but I always get really excited when I do Akashic readings, and, because I'm sharing, the journey with my client, and I get to see, their soul memories, and I get to share, in, their aha moments, so it's also kind of rejuvenating in a way too. Okay,
cool. Do you do anything, because it's energy intensive, do you anything like to stay, quote, in shape for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Self-care is the ultimate importance to me. I went through a period where I was very unhealthy for I'll say for like 20 years, my health just deteriorated. And I think it got worse when I was trying to live life as an Akashic reader, but also as an environmental health specialist, so it got really bad during that time. I came down with breast cancer, and I had, some other, comorbidities that developed. So I knew if I was going to continue this journey that I had to be healthy, that, it was, of ultimate importance for me to be in good health. Not only, I think, to maintain my own energy, but also I think to be kind of a 5th dimensional prototype, for, the new human, the human that is going to be, have upgraded DNA, that's going to be able to, transcend, the limitations of our 3D reality here, so I went on a very transformative health journey, during the last 2 years, starting in 2020. And I did lose almost 80 pounds during that time, which, so I don't look the same as I did even 2 years ago. I don't even feel like I'm the same person, but other than the fact that I still do Akashic readings and stuff, but my personality, I think, changed a little bit. I think I probably just more stepped into who I truly am, because I was starting to take better care of myself. But it was also a very mental journey. It was healing from an emotional standpoint, in addition to physical and also mental and spiritual, so it was just a combination thereof. But I appreciate, you asking me that question, because it kind of honors my journey, and I appreciate, your attention to it, because it was quite a journey. I'm just happy to be here and happy to be of service,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, 80 pounds is sort of a outwardly dramatic for sure.
Yeah, that was very dramatic. Yeah, it is. You are not the same person after you lose that much weight. And and people have told me too that I reversed aged, so I think when I was heavier, I looked older. And maybe because I had a lot of inflammation in my body, and and I had some comorbidities that I had to deal with. But now I don't know. I don't feel like I look my age, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or anything, but I feel like this is all stuff that we all can do. All of us can take care of ourselves, and we can become the best versions of ourselves. And just through doing, I would say, a lot of self-care. So I do follow a pretty clean diet. Not that I'm perfect at it. I mean, I'm human. Sometimes I do like to eat that cookie or, whatever. But for the most part, I eat, I would say mostly a plant-based diet. And I do exercise quite a bit, and I meditate. I have a yoga practice. And, I try to do all the right things just to keep myself healthy.
So is there any one thing that you think was the biggest factor in sort of shifting things for you?
I would say the mental. Yeah. Let me take that back. I'll say it was mental, but also combined with diet. I think diet is a huge factor. Diet and exercise, that was huge. But also, I don't think you can make permanent change until you heal the, I would say, the inner trauma, or the inner wounds that maybe came from your childhood or came from maybe some past life stuff. So I did a lot of alternative healing in addition to, the more physical, components of diet and exercise. Which I did EMDR, so that's a method of reprogramming yourself. I went through theta healing, I did Reiki, I did QHHT. So I did a number of alternative healing practices in addition to like diet.
Yeah. So yeah, just you hitting it from many angles.
I was just, sure. I kind of felt like, how can I be a spiritual, teacher or a spiritual leader if I'm not walking the path myself, so I felt like I needed to be an example.
Yeah. Well, great example. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey guys, real quick, I just want to remind you about the League of Superconductors. This is the mastermind that I run to support the world's biggest changemakers, to elevate your work. If you're a coach, a healer, a spiritual teacher, if you're working to shape the future of humanity, then I've put together a program to support you in business, in learning metaphysical techniques to support your work. And we are closing the doors at the end of June. This is a 1-year container where we will help you launch your community project, your online course, your podcast, your YouTube channel, become a best-selling author, international speaker, whichever you want, and combine all of these different modalities into a business that gives you freedom and allows you to live your purpose. So if this sounds like you, then just head over to my website, derekloudermilk.com, check out the League of Superconductors. You can apply there, and then we'll have a conversation to see if it's a good fit. And so we're closing the doors for this round at the end of June 2022. Hope to see you in there. We still have plenty of time. This is great. Okay. Yeah. How about the moon? Can you talk about the moon? What's the role of the moon for us on Earth, or do you have a sense of why it's important?
Um, some people say that the moon is I would say artificial construct, which I think there's components of it that probably is artificial. I think there was moon bases, back in early part of Earth's history where maybe there was some monitoring going on. I think there might even still be bases there today. I'm not even sure if the moon, if there really was a visit on the moon, back in 1960s when the astronauts were visiting the moon, but which I kind of have questions around it. I don't have like a really clear-cut hypothesis on that yet, but I do think the moon was kind of artificially constructed, honestly. Was it constructed by humans? No, I think it was constructed by alien groups, maybe to keep an eye on planet Earth.
There are some interesting things about it, that it's this sort of the same size as the sun, sort of as we look at it from Earth, and it sort of rings like a bell. Those NASA experiments.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's not really a real moon, I don't know, or
it's
natural.
Like too perfectly round. Like there's no other moons that are so perfectly round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just seems a little sus, as they call it. But
yeah, is that something that you can
Gen Z slang there, But
nice.
Yeah.
So how much can you, let's say like the moon landing, how much could you verify or look into that through the Akashic records?
I'm not as well versed in some of the Earth history, so I would say my specialty is more the galactic. I do access Earth history, but it's more like the ancient history. Sometimes I struggle a little bit with some of the more modern history, but I can sometimes get some good information. It's kind of hard because what I'm seeing is I think they actually did land, but I think there was an agenda. I think there was a hidden agenda. It wasn't just, they're landing, oh, how wonderful, there was something in the story that wasn't being openly discussed or collaborated or
Gotcha.
So that's what I pick up about that. But I'm not really an expert on it. So I can't go more into detail about it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier Earth was always meant to be 5D, but we fell into 3D. Where are we now?
We're still in 3D. I would say there's layers of so on Earth there's layers of dimensions. Okay, so there's a third dimensional aspect of Earth, there's the fourth dimensional aspect of Earth, and there's even now a fifth dimensional aspect of Earth. But I would say, within the current construct that we're in right now, some of us are still in third, but then there's some of us that are actually in fourth. So I would say the majority of us light workers and star seeds are probably at this time operating more in fourth, unless we're having to deal with people that are still in third. So I really believe that as star seeds, or as I think souls that are here to be of service to humanity or to the planet, we kind of go up and down dimensions, quite like tiers of dimensions, and that's what actually creates the ascension symptoms. That we kind of go, so it's kind of like we feel like we're seesawing through, this dimensional realms, because, we might really be in fourth. Like, I don't feel like I exist in third much of the time. I feel like I kind of run around in fourth dimension, but unless, I'm visiting family or I'm going to the grocery store, or going to the bank or something, where it's more of a 3D construct. But I think, what helps a lot of us with, navigating through that is, I think, just doing some good shielding exercises and being conscious and aware of it. Like, hey, maybe I don't want my third eye wide open when I go to the grocery store, or going to work and having to deal with, my coworkers, so.
Why would that, why would you not want it open at the grocery store?
Because it's overwhelming, because you're getting energies and you're reading auras from so many different people. So, because you've got like all these people, that are unawakened, and a lot of them have very negative energy. And I don't know, maybe you do want your third eye open at the grocery store. I don't know. I'm not, me personally, I don't, but maybe some people do. But to me, it doesn't do me any good to see auras of the cashier or, the person in produce, so, so that's just my way of navigating through it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my own experience. So I'm a cyclist, and I'm often riding through the most depressed, crime-ridden areas of my city in order to get to the countryside.
Yeah.
And it feels so foreign. It feels like, how is this even a real thing? Like it, it's just a weird experience.
Yeah, gotcha. So you feel like when you go through the depressed areas of your city, that it feels like you're in a different dimension, or
it's just hard for me to wrap my head around how it's possible.
Gotcha.
I don't see auras of people, but it does feel like I'm entering a new, like the difference between my home and these other places, it feels substantial.
I would say there's probably because of the vibrational aspects, like when you're probably in your home, which I'm guessing is probably in the suburbs, or maybe
we're kind of on the edge. We're in the nicer part, but on the edge of the bad part.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so the vibration is different there, so it feels higher vibrational. And then when you're riding through the more depressed areas, it just feels like probably very low vibration, so it is almost like you're going through a different dimension in a sense, even though technically you might not be, but vibrationally speaking, it would feel like a different world, like sometimes, it's very high vibrational here in Colorado, for instance. Like, I think a lot of people like to move here because of the vibrations. It's so high vibrational here. And sometimes when I go back east, if I go to, say, upstate New York, or other parts of Washington D.C. or something, if the vibration feels very different,
okay,
and it doesn't feel as good to me. It feels like I'm moving through mud, or just oh, this feels so heavy. It feels so dense. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but that's how I would interpret it.
Gotcha. Okay. One thing, so we've talked a little bit about Arcturians, Lyrans, Sirius, and we talked about the Draconians attacking Lyra, but we haven't talked about who they are, where they're from. Can you speak about that race a little bit?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, the Draconians. Yeah, everybody loves that topic. Yeah, the reptilians. This is something I saw in the records, and I had no correlation to know if it's true or not. So because I don't hear too many other people talking about it, but it was just something I personally saw in the records. My understanding with draconian beings is that they didn't originate from our universe. They originated from a different universe, but they had a big conflict with another race of beings in that universe, which I understand were kind of avian looking, like they were. So it's kind of like an avian race of beings. Are they the blue avians? I don't know. They were just an avian race that I saw in the Akashic records, and then I saw that I think the avian race. They got into the war with the draconian beings, And the Draconians were loving it in their old universe because they had these, sumptuous planets, that were, I think just very beautiful. And, they had all these resources at hand. But this avian race kicked them out. It's like somehow energetically or through technology, they were able to, kick them out of the old universe, and they ended up depositing them into our universe in the Draco system. And my understanding from the records is that Draco does not have beautiful planets. It's quite barren. It's not a fun place to live, but so these beings got pretty angry about it. They were pretty upset. And so I guess because they're service to self type of beings, instead of maybe trying to transcend their situation, they wanted to just conquer other systems. They wanted to become the great conquerors of our universe. So that was part of the reason why they attacked Lyra, was because they had an abundant planets. They had many resources. And they thought it would be great to have them as part of the empire, the Draconian Empire, and so that, and they kind of started from there. If you look on a star map, Lyra is located very close. It's like next door to Draco. It's really interesting how close it is to Draco. It's pretty mind-boggling, actually. So,
when you say universe, that's different from galaxy, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Universe is and there's multi-universes. I think a lot of people think there's just one universe. There's the universes are so vast that we can't even wrap our minds. We're having a hard time wrapping our minds around one universe, like just one universe, but there's multi-universes. It just keeps going on into infinity. And a galaxy is like a group of stars. Like it's a huge group of stars, but it's a group of stars, So you can have many galaxies within a universe. And we do have many galaxies within our universe. Like our little Milky Way is just a teeny tiny, even though it seems huge to us, it's a teeny tiny part of our universe.
How much intergalactic would like Arcturians maybe even originate in a different galaxy, or how much of that transfer of souls between galaxies? Any sense of that?
There is some transfers of souls between galaxies. I understand the Andromeda Galaxy group created the Milky Way. It's another thing I saw in the records, which I don't have much other collaboration with, but I keep seeing it in the records, and I think I even talked about it in my website. But so because they created the Milky Way, they were like a co-creator, light beings that created stars, nebulas, and planets. They decided to accompany the Milky Way, so we do have a lot of Andromeda Galaxy souls here right now. And Arcturians, my understanding with Arcturians, they are associated with this galaxy, so they don't necessarily come from a different universe or a different reality. They're kind of homeboys, they're, homeboys, homegirls, so, so we love this galaxy. We're devoted to this galaxy because this is where we're from, this is where, our consciousness was created here, so. But that's an interesting question. I like that.
And, okay, so the Milky Way is still really vast, and we're talking about, a dozen or so star systems here.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, and Andromeda Galaxy, which is a whole other galaxy, is huge. They're the two galaxies that are closest to each other. Speaking of scientific facts, I do think there's some scientific collaboration to the story of the Milky Way once being part of the Andromeda Galaxy, because this is a scientific fact. This is something that I actually saw in a scientific article. about astronomy is that every year our galaxy, the Milky Way, is getting closer and closer to the Andromeda galaxy. And eventually, in a few million years from now, we're going to converge with the
They'll
Andromeda.
sort of pass through each other in a way, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I imagine that's going to be quite the event when that happens. It's going
Big
to
party.
be, I don't know how we're going to survive through that, but I don't know. We might be, light beings at that point. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't even matter. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So with your galactic history knowledge, it seems kind of like we're maybe just talking about one neighborhood in the Milky Way.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, kind of. Although the Milky Way, I would say a lot of these star systems that we're talking about are actually, I would say, dispersed throughout the Milky Way. So the Milky Way is huge, but there's a certain group of star people or star beings that were most involved with Earth. So those are why we hear these same star people and star systems over and over and over again, because they're the ones that have the most vested interest in Earth. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of other extraterrestrial beings, even in our galaxy, but they're not as involved with the Earth project. So these aren't the beings as Earth humans that we would be, as connected with. I know there's some folks like Elena Danan that I think she follows, some of these alternative non-humanoid races, probably more so than I do. I'm more, I would say I'm kind of more aligned with the races that are more involved with planet Earth. At least that's been my interest, because that's where we're at right now. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So there would be hundreds of thousands of races. So diversity all across the galaxy.
Oh, totally.
But most are not super interested in Earth because they have their own stuff going on.
They have their own agendas. They have their own thing going on. Yeah. So but there's at least 22 different races that are directly involved with Earth. So those are the ones that we probably deal with and talk about the most, is these 22 races.
Wow.
And I think Alex Collier kind of collaborates with that too. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's pretty awesome. And I always wish him well because, I don't know, he's kind of there doing his own thing, but.
And is this another Akashic Galactic historian?
He's actually he's an ET contactee that downloaded a bunch of information from his connection with the Andromedans, particularly the Andromedans from Andromeda constellation. So he's had many visitations with these Andromedans, and he's been on board their ships, and he's downloaded a lot of, I would say, galactic historical information from them. So sometimes if I need collaboration on something, I'll look to see what he says about it, just to see if it collaborates, and a lot of times it does. I mean, I think what he's received is very similar to what I've received.
Great. Yeah, that's always nice to have that validation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because sometimes we kind of question ourselves as humans. We're kind of like, am I going crazy? Is this really real? Why am I seeing this stuff? So
yeah. And you have your contact story is a great story. I've heard it on other shows, and I think we don't necessarily need to get into it fully here because people can go and listen. I heard you tell
that story a million times. So not that I don't mind sharing it, but yeah, you're right. People can access my website and hear the story or access other interviews. Yeah, for sure.
But so how much are you still in contact or getting information from them? Like this Alex guy is getting information. Yeah, is that still part of your life at all?
Oh yeah, totally. I get information from my guides. I consider them my guides. They're part of my star family. I get information from them all the time. Is it groundbreaking information? Probably not all the time, you know. I mean, it would be nice, but it would be nice if I can get groundbreaking. But I'm still a human. I'm still living my life. I'm still, you know, have my human experience here. But I do collaborate with them a lot, and they do assist me, you know, through my Earth journey. So, and sometimes I do get some new information, you know. So sometimes I do downloads, you know, something that's totally new or different, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that, you know. And I do think my, you know, my higher guidance is helping me, you know, whether that is my higher self or my Arcturian star family. I call them the Arcturian collective, you know, um, but I do stay in regular contact with them. I have crazy stories about crazy things they make me do as part of my, I guess, spiritual development, you know, while I'm here on the planet. But I always joke to my guides, they're tough on me, but every experience or everything they've told me to do, it ended up becoming a beautiful experience. So I don't question them anymore. You know, it's always been.
What kind of crazy things have you done?
Well, one time I was meditating and I was connecting with my guides, and I had this image of a kite flying, and I never flown a kite in my life. You know, I just, for some reason, I had this image of a kite and I was flying a kite, and then I became the kite, you know, I don't know, just kind of interesting. And my guides told me that I needed to go to a specific place in Colorado, the San Luis Mountains, which is kind of on the south central part of Colorado. I don't know if you've ever been there while you were here, but.
Is that by the sand dunes?
Sure is, yeah.
Okay.
So I was supposed to go there and fly a kite. And I was like, what? Like, what? You know, like, and so interestingly enough, like a couple of weeks later, I got invited to go to a women's retreat in that area. So I was like, oh, cool. You know, I get to go to this women's retreat, you know, hang out with some star sisters, and I'll get to fly my kite, you know. So I was like, very, very cool. So, so I went there and I picked this beautiful place, surrounded by the beautiful San Luis Mountains. It just felt very magical. And I started flying my kite. And that was when I started getting major downloads about my mission here on Earth, what I was supposed to be doing. And it was a transcendental experience. I don't know. And my understanding is the reason why they picked that area was because there was an Arcturian portal nearby. Okay, which I don't know the exact location of it, but that was a reason why I had to fly my kite. So I got major downloads from the portal, I guess maybe through the kite, I don't know, but there was some sort of exercise that I was supposed to do with it. But that's a kind of a fun story of some of the interesting things they make me do.
Yeah, I want to do something like that. That sounds like a fun adventure.
Well, you have Arcturian guides too, so be prepared. They're gonna start hitting you up. The other weird thing they made me do was early in my journey. I'll tell this story, and because I think it's another cute story. But so I was asking my guides, how do I connect with you better? And they said meditation. And I said, this was early on in my, you know, spiritual journey. I said, I hate meditation. I don't like to meditate. So I was being a little brat, you know. So they told me, okay, you don't like meditating? Well, you're gonna learn to meditate. So we're gonna send you to the Zen Buddhist Center in Crestone, Colorado, and you're gonna learn to meditate with the Buddhist monks. And so I was like, okay, I guess they want me to meditate. So so my partner and I, you know, my hubby and I, we went and stayed with the Zen Buddhists in Crestone, Colorado. They have a center there. It's quite beautiful. And we meditated with them morning and night. We had meals with them. You know, we had our spiritual experience. And so I learned how to meditate. And it was I would say it was a great experience. So,
Cool.
so be prepared because Derek, because you're going to start, now that you know that you're Arcturian, they're going to start hitting you up. So I'm just warning you in advance. So,
Okay. Well, that's
yeah.
exciting for me.
Yeah, no, I think you're going to have fun with it. Yeah.
When you first had your contact experience, you said, I believe, that it sort of enhanced your abilities in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my experience was more out of body. So I don't think I was physically on board a starship. I think when it happened, it was like my consciousness was in the starship. But when I looked at myself, I looked like my physical self, when I was, on board the ship. But so I looked human, I didn't look weird or different or anything, it looked like my human self. Um, but I think because I was exposed to higher dimensions, so it's very much similar to going through like a near-death experience, where you're kind of dead, mine was probably easier because I wasn't physically dead. When people go through near-death experiences, they're physically dead, but so because I had, I would say, exposure to the higher dimensions, it, I think, activated something within me where when I came back to the third dimension, I was not the same person anymore. It was like something kind of clicked or shifted, because then I was starting to see, auras around things. I was, telepathically communicating with animals and people and stuff. I mean, it was just kind of, seeing UFOs all the time. I mean, it was just like, interdimensionally traveling. I mean, it was like all these really very bizarre experiences, and, having, interaction with interdimensional beings. And it was just, like, oh my God, and I honestly thought I was going crazy. I thought I was losing it. I thought, so I didn't talk about it with anybody, with the exception of maybe my partner and, maybe a couple of really close friends, but I didn't even tell my family because I was just like, I'm losing it. I don't know what's going on with me. But I think there's something about being exposed to the higher dimensions that activates those, I would say, those neural pathways in our brain to be able to access alternate skills that are, I would say, are dormant in a lot of humans right now. I think we all have these abilities, but I think they're pretty much dormant in most of us until we have access to the higher dimensional realms that help us to activate these skills. So I think as humans, we all have the ability to telepathically communicate. We're all psychic. We all can access the Akashic records. We all have these abilities, but I think for some of us, and I notice even with near-death experiencers, a lot of them, when they come back from their near-death experience, they become psychic, or they have healing abilities, or they have, I would say, alternate, I say psychic abilities that get activated. So it's very, very similar, so I would say we all have these abilities. They just need to get activated at some point.
So if you were to give me advice to have the Arcturians hit me up and activate some abilities, how would you suggest I approach that?
Probably the same way they told me, have a daily meditation practice. So, which I know sounds very basic, but it really isn't. Because when I first started meditating, I was like getting crickets all the time. Like, what the heck, nothing happening here, nothing happening. But then I started getting like audible messages from my guides, and then I started getting visions, and then I was starting to connect with, the higher source of things, and having these really transcendental experiences. So I would say meditation, because you always want to meet the guides halfway, because they don't necessarily want to pull their energy all the way down all the time. The other thing I would recommend is keeping your vibration high. Anything you can do to raise your vibration, and there's many ways you can raise your vibration, even simple things like going out in nature or petting your dog or cat, or laughing at a comedy show, as long as it's clean comedy. I don't think if it's negative comedy, not so much, but if it's nice, fun, clean comedy, that'll raise your vibration. Eating high vibrational foods, taking care of yourself, those are all things that are going to raise your vibration. And then you'll have that constant connection with your guides.
So when you're in meditation, do you simply say like, I'm available, please come contact me, kind of like a request? Or it'll just
I don't
happen?
even have to say that anymore. I just kind of click with them. I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of like, I just kind of sit, by myself. I'm just quiet, and then I just feel that connection. I don't know how to, I don't even have to consciously ask it anymore. Maybe in the beginning I did, but not so much anymore.
Gotcha. One thing I remember from your contact story was that it was sort of precipitated by a really long sort of asking.
Yeah, there was a prayer involved. And I think it's kind of like how I think the universe works, right? When we set an intention for something, that's when things happen, so the Arcturians teach that there's a three-way process to manifestation. And the first one is through thought, so we have, everything starts with a thought. The second is desire. So we need to put that feeling and desire into what we want to create. And then the third is action. So if we don't take the action, nothing's going to happen, so there's got to be all three components in order to manifest. And I think these are also probably very similar to the law of attraction, or, or whatever, other similar modalities that are out there that talk about this sort of thing. But going back to your original question, remind me what it was again. I'm sorry.
I guess I was just getting your advice on how, I personally, one thing that I think would help a lot of people is seeing dramatic, superhuman abilities in action, whether it's telepathy or telekinesis or something like that. A lot of times I think if people were to see that, it would sort of shock them in a way that they would have to address it, perhaps.
Yeah, but I also think that, I understand what you're saying, but I also think in a way that we also have to come to that point ourselves, where, but getting back to the prayer question that you had.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what precipitated all this was. So I think this all started, so this was in May 2012, and it was during a period when I was going through a lot of transition personally, and also, our country was going through a lot of transition because it was an election year, and it was the end of the Mayan calendar, there's a lot of stuff going on. And so I was very worried about the state of the planet, I was very worried about the environment, I was worried about humans and sentient beings being abused, and things happening. And so I sent out this big prayer to the universe one night. I had the sleepless night, was continuously praying all throughout the night, for divine beings to assist planet Earth. And I sent it out to everybody. So it wasn't just specific beings, it was angels, Jesus, Mother Mary, the ascended masters, galactic brothers and sisters, all of them, so I never thought I would get an answer to my prayer, but my extraterrestrial experience was the answer to my prayer, because 2 weeks later I was on board an Arcturian starship, so you never know what will come out of prayer, right? So but they did in fact tell me, the Arcturian beings on board the ship told me the reason why I was there was because they heard my prayer. So that was really cool. Yeah.
So often I come back to if you ask a clear and direct request, if you have a solid prayer in that sense, like, it's much more likely to be answered and supported.
Absolutely. Yeah. So so everything starts with asking for something, even with our guides. I mean, our guides, they are there, they are always there to assist us, but sometimes we have to directly ask them, like, hey, I need help with this. Can you help me? I know when I started my health journey, I straight out asked my guides, and I said, hey guides, if you want me to do this mission, I need to be healthy. I need to be healthy. Can you help me? Because I don't know I've tried everything. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And they did help me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did they help you?
Well, at the time I was very obese, and I knew I needed to lose weight. And I've tried all the diets out there, couldn't lose weight. And so I was upset and I was crying. And I said, hey guides, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And so, so it kind of happens, so our guides have different ways of communicating with us. Sometimes they won't necessarily just outright tell us something. They show us through signs. So I noticed like the next few days, I kept seeing ads for a bariatric center in Lone Tree, Colorado, which is kind of the south end of Denver. And it was the same center, same ads. And I thought, oh, hell no, I don't think I'm a candidate. I mean, I was kind of, my interest was kind of piqued, but then I thought, no, there's no way I'm a candidate for that kind of thing. But I kept seeing the ads. So then I knew it was like a sign from my guides. So
Gotcha.
I actually contacted the center. I have expected them to turn me away because I wasn't, 200 pounds or 300 pounds. But I was still pretty heavy for my my height. But they didn't turn me away at all. Then they told me I was a candidate. They said, you're kind of borderline, you're kind of at the the low end, but you're a candidate. And I was like, well, let's do it. And sure enough, my insurance approved it. I went through the surgery in 2020, June 2020, and my life has changed.
And sorry, I'm not familiar with that term, bariatric.
Bariatric surgery is when they make your stomach smaller so that you can lose weight. And in my case, they also rerouted some of my intestines. It's a pretty dramatic surgery, but I was at the point where I tried everything, and I knew if I didn't lose weight that I would not be healthy. And apparently, my doctor felt that way too. And I was able to get the surgery approved. They deemed it medically necessary. So now I have a much smaller stomach, and I can't eat very big meals, so I eat, maybe 4 or 5 small meals a day.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
This has been really fantastic. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you think is important to share?
I wonder if it's okay if I can share some of my upcoming webinars that are coming up.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. Since we just have a few minutes left here. So periodically, if you're a follower of mine, or if you're not a follower of mine and want to be, you can always sign up on my website. And periodically I'll offer like live webinars that are recorded. So you can watch them again if you missed the live. But the last 2 webinars I did, the first one was on recognizing extraterrestrial frequencies. The second one I did was on transforming galactic soul contracts. So it's more about relationships. But I will have a webinar coming up in July 31st this year on mastering starseed health. So it's all about how our specific star lineages affects our health here on planet Earth, and what we can do to transcend, some of our health issues, whether we're a Pleiadian starseed or an Arcturian starseed or a Sirian starseed or whatever we are. And so it's going to be like probably about an hour, or actually, no, I think it's going to be like a 2 or 3 hour deal. And we're going to offer it on Sunday, so you can spend as much time with it as you want. But I will be advertising that soon, so I hope people will get interested and want to join us. They're usually very interactive, a lot of fun, and a lot of information. The other thing is that as far as my appearances on Gaia, I've had several appearances on Gaia TV. You will see me on the next season of Ancient Civilizations, and also on Deep Space. Also, I think I have one more Beyond Belief show, and Open Minds. You will see me as one of the presenters or speakers at the next Gaia Sphere event, or I think I don't know if it's the next one, but it's going to be the ones that'll be offered in September, which is the Ancient Civilizations event. I'll be one of the speakers. So if you are a Gaia subscriber, you can catch me on that. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. You've been busy.
Yeah, very busy. Yeah, I just keep getting busier too. Just a lot going on. I have some projects in the works, and for those of you that follow me on my YouTube channel, I know I've been inactive there for a while, but we are going to post a new video pretty soon. So I'm going to start doing that again. So we'll start, continue with the videos, have fun with that. A lot of people love those videos because it mimics a lot of their own stories, or they feel a resonance with some of the stories. So so it's going to be, so we got some really fun things coming down the pike, and if you want a personal reading with me, I am accepting appointments. However, I do have a very long waiting list. So your best bet is to contact my assistant through my website, and she'll get you set up for that if you're very interested in having a personal reading with me.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing so much today. And just really, you said it at the beginning, being of service. So
no, I'm just happy to be of service. I'm happy to be. I'm always ever thankful of my good health, and ever thankful to be here with all of the rest of us. And we're gonna get this ascension thing done. That's my main purpose here. So
excellent.
Let's get this planet back to the fifth dimension where it belongs.
Perfect. Well, Debbie, thanks so much. And
thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Yes. All right.